You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and this is my conversation with Joey Tempest, who was the main man, the key songwriter, the fella at the middle of a band from Europe, ironically called Europe. We all know them. The reason for the conversation is to promote their upcoming Australian tour, occurring through May. I'll read out some dates. Wednesday the 16th, they're playing Perth. Friday the 18th, they're playing Adelaide. Saturday the 19th, they're playing Melbourne. Tuesday the 22nd, they're playing Sydney. And finally, Wednesday the 23rd, they are playing Brisbane. Let's hear what Joey has to say. Here we go. Norris.
All right.
Take care.
Hi, Andrew. Joey here. How you doing?
I'm very good, mate. All the better for talking to you. You're one of those fellas in a band whose music I must have listened to, well, one track in particular, as I'm sure you've been given a lot of feedback on that, but for the better part of close to 35 years or thereabouts or something like that now. So it's always a thrill to talk to somebody who's had quite a lot to say in terms of my own musical influence. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
You know? So, mate, you're coming down to Australia finally after all of these years. So, you've probably got this question a lot as well. How come it's taking you so long to come down?
Yeah, we asked ourselves that, actually. We have a vague memory of our management trying to book something in the 80s. It didn't materialize. I've been trying to find out why, but ever since then we've been trying to get back to Australia. The new management we've had now for 5 years, they are been pushing much harder for this, and we're so pleased that we finally can come down there. We've been trying quite a few times, but it's also, you know how it is, trying to find a promoter there that would really go for it. But now we have people there, and actually through the years we've worked with some people that grew up in Australia, and they've told us, you've got great fans over there, you should try to get there. And we've also noticed on social media, obviously, that we have a great number of fans there. So this is a big moment. It's the highlight of the year for us. Band and the crew.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, well, we are looking forward to to your trip coming down. I was actually talking to a fellow who's very familiar with your music, what you've done, of course, through the 80s, 90s and 2000s, and including your solo work down at Download Festival in Melbourne, and he was ecstatic that you guys are coming down. So you're bang on point, mate. There are some very big fans of the band's music, of the band's catalogue, I should say, waiting for you. So there should be a lot of very appreciative punters in the audience when you perform. Yes.
We're going to be very excited to be there as well, and presenting an interesting show, because it's kind of different for us. We haven't been there, but it's still a country that is very familiar with our catalogue. So it's going to be challenging and interesting to put this together.
So what sort of show will you be bringing down? Is it a show that you've done elsewhere before, or is it something that's specifically designed for the Australian fans?
We're going to design it. It's going to be a little bit different from what we do normally. I mean, we tour a lot, but this time we felt like trying to do over 2 hours to start with, and try and maybe even separate it, have a little break in the middle, so you can feel like you're doing a new start. And also we wanted to maybe bring some features to show the band members. I mean, John Norum, for the fans, John Norum, the legend, I saw him first time when I was 15, he was 14, and we started Force together. Him just coming to Australia is a huge thing. I mean, to see him play, I mean, he's just astonishing. So we're going to try to put in some features where, you know, other things and songs as well. But other than that, we're going to maybe Walk the Earth. We'll get 3 songs in there, and then War of Kings and Bag of Bones and Last of Good Eden, a few songs from those.
Excellent.
But the big songs, of course, from the 80s. And then maybe even go back to the first and second album, do some early stuff. So it'll be a big span, you know, great music, great features, and we wanted to make it special. So this will be a little designed for Australia,
Okay, sweet. Now, it'd be remiss of me not to talk about one of the biggest songs of all time, which is, of course, The Final Countdown. And look, the role that it played in my life, and I've got to tell you this, it was actually the song that got me into hard rock and heavy metal, because as a very young fella back then, I was about 8 or 9 when it was released. It came out on a compilation album in Australia. I was too young to buy records back then myself, or cassettes, but there was, I don't know whether you've been given this feedback so far with the interviews that you've done, but there was a compilation released in Australia. It came out every year. It was called Smash Hits, and then the year, and your track was on something called Smash Hits 87. Now, there was Kylie Minogue, Shantuzies, there were all sorts of other artists on there, but, you know, your track reached iconic status, I think, because of that compilation album, mate. It was played at barbecues, family barbecues, occasions. You go to the roller rink, there's the ice skating rink or the roller rink. It was played there over the speakers. And I remember every time your track came on, my mates and I would look at each other and go, yes, this is our track. It's coming on.
Cool.
So it's such a... I mean, how does it feel to have written a song that is it's such a integral part to people, their memories, their childhood, their teenage years?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it was on our third album, but I wrote it quite early, when the band was, before we started recording. The actual riff was done when I was still a teenager. When we recorded it, we knew it was special. It was the opening track of the third album, and we felt this is like 6 minutes long. It's we don't know what it's going to be, but we feel it's a feeling. It's like a soundtrack. It feels great. But then it was just left like that, and we started touring, and we started doing other albums. But then we realized this song is sort of got a life of its own. It's out there doing its thing, and but we still love playing it live, and it's part of our it's part of our live set. I mean, we don't listen to it at home or rehearse it. We don't need to rehearse it. I mean, but we do enjoy playing it live. We do enjoy playing that song live, together with songs like Walk the Night, Superstitious, and so there are some songs from the early period of the band that we really, really enjoy.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to pinch your arm because you're a young boy. You come out with a riff. You sit late one night with a keyboard and you come up with a riff, and then you do a demo. You do a demo, and then you record it with the band. And then years later, you and me are talking about it. I mean, that's pretty amazing, It's sometimes I just like, how did that happen? Because it was just a feeling. It was just an album track. It wasn't meant as anything else than a sort of avant-garde kind of different album track. That's what it was meant to be.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's like an accidental hit, so to speak. It's something that took on a life of its own.
No, it was never. We didn't think it would be. I mean, we loved it, and I loved even the demo was amazing. But it was like a soundtrack and a journey. But it didn't feel like one of those 3 minutes pop songs. It was different. It was. So we thought it would be a great live track. We thought it would be, one of those classic album songs, that we all know,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, and you mentioned that keyboard riff. It's as iconic as the song itself. And again, being a musician as I used to play clarinet back in the day, but of course we had access to electronic keyboards, Casio or Kurzweil electronic keyboards, and that was the riff we all tried to play as kids and as young teenagers, wasn't it? I mean, that was the riff that if you could do that, you could at least play a cool track.
Yeah, that's it. No, it's become an imprint. People seem to know it everywhere. That's pretty cool.
So we've just spent 5 or so minutes talking about the track, and rightly so, because it's had such as I've pointed out, a massive impact on us here in Australia. If you were growing up through the 80s and early part of the 90s, but you've released a lot of music yourself. You've had solo albums. There's been a lot of albums with Europe. What are you most proud of out of that enormous catalogue of work that you do have out in the market?
Well, it's kind of cliche, but the last 2 or 3 albums, we just won a Grammy for Walk the Earth, and we've never won a Grammy before, not even for my solo stuff. So we won a Grammy in Sweden, and we won some other awards, and we have a review in Classic Rock magazine, which is the biggest magazine in the world, saying this is probably their best album. But it's not only that; it's the fact that we can still, the 10th and 11th album, we produce these kind of organic, kind of Deep Purple-ish, great rock albums. They're not overworked. They're just a feeling, and we try to stretch. We try to learn about equipment, trying to learn about songwriting and expression, and work with the best studios, best engineers, best producers. We're becoming nerdy in the studio with the sounds. It needs to be organic. It needs to be dynamic. So I'm proud of us that we're still here. I think I'm most proud of that we're here. We're talking to great. We're getting great reviews, and we're talking to people that accept us as a band today, as well as in the 80s and 90s. I think there's so few bands. Original lineup in 2018. Getting good reviews, winning Grammys, and touring around the world, and in an original lineup. So, I mean, I don't know if there are any other cases. So, there will be a lot of reunion tours and stuff, but we've been back for 11 years. 11 years with
the
6 new
original
albums.
lineup,
So
yeah.
we've been together. Yeah, we've been together longer the second period than the first period. So those things makes me very proud.
I think there's only yourselves and Aerosmith. Or I don't think Aerosmith have had a change in membership either, but that'd be about it.
No, you're right.
Yeah, that'd be about it. Sorry,
it.
my daughter's just come and asked me to turn on her iPad again, so 2 seconds. Apologies, mate. Gosh, dad life, you know how it is. I'm sure you've got kids, you know. There you go. Told them not to disturb me, but my wife's out playing sport at the moment. So, sorry, I digress.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I've got one boy. One boy is in school now, and the little boy is here at home, and my wife's here as well. So, but I'm going over to Sweden now tomorrow, and we're starting rehearse. Going to rehearse a couple of days now, and getting ready for Australia to do the set list. So we're meeting the crew and the band, and everybody's putting the set list together in the next coming days. So it's going to be great.
Okay. So you live in London these days, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. For many, many years.
Yeah, so what inspired is it the commerce of music? Did that inspire the move? Because Sweden is an extraordinarily rich and fertile ground for rock and roll and heavy metal. I reckon I've done over 300 interviews, and I think about 60 of those interviews would have been with artists that originate in Sweden.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweden is very interesting as far as music, songwriting, expression, rehearsing, doing great rock albums. But ever since I went to London, first time I came down, I was about 12 or 13 with my parents. I was hooked already then. But then I moved to London in the late 80s. And I stayed here for a while. And I lived in various places since then, in Ireland, in the Caribbean. And
oh, wow. Okay.
I've been a world traveler, really. I've been a world traveler for 25 years, 30 years maybe. But London always kept me coming back. I always kept coming back to London. And I met my now wife. We've been together since '92. We've been together a long time. And
long time.
We got married in 2000, and we got married in 2000 when I moved here permanently to London. And so it's just my home now, and my boys are born here, and you know how it is with big cities or places. You're there for 2 or 3, 4, 5 years. It becomes your roots. But I do love it here. It gives me a lot of inspiration, and I'm very proud every time I bring the boys over for a tour in the UK, and also we recorded in the UK the last album in Abbey Road. I managed to get them over there. The last time we recorded in the UK before that was Out of This World in '88. So we haven't recorded in the UK for all this time. So it's just my home now, and I've been here a long, long time.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to put something to you. A band that I would love to see you tour with, if it could ever be arranged, it'd be a very diverse tour, but they're Swedish icons like yourself. Candlemass. I reckon that'd be a brilliant 1-2 punch. And I've spoken to Leif a couple of times. He's like you, mate. He's very easy to talk to. I'd love to see that tour go ahead.
Yeah, we know Leif because he grew up in Upplands Väsby. He grew up in the same suburb as we did.
Right.
So we followed him. He played in various bands, and we followed Candlemass. And I just met the guitar player the other day. He came to see us in Sweden when we played before Christmas. We have good contact with Candlemass. Yeah, they're a great band, an interesting band. Also, other Swedish bands like Opeth are very interesting, I think. And
brilliant.
There are many bands from there.
There's another one that I know that Marcus Jadell is an excellent guitarist, has got a lot to do with Candlemass. I think it was announced that he was, Avatarium. I'd love to see Avatarium. I always think of bands and packages that I'd like to go and watch, and that'd be Avatarium, Candlemass, and
exactly.
Brilliant three. Yeah. See if we can make that one happen.
You're right. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep it in mind.
So is there, you mentioned Opeth there, are there any, when I say newish bands that have come out in the last sort of 10, 15 years or so that have actually spoken to you and said, look, we owe you a debt of gratitude because if it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't be doing what we do?
Well, there is, you must be familiar with it too. I mean, there's younger bands now that are doing some 80s influenced sounds. There's a Swedish band called Heat, and there are other bands around the world, obviously. It's kind of interesting because we, as a band, we've moved on and express our music more organically in a different kind of way of recording and sounding. But they are carrying the torch, if you like. They are kind of doing what we did then, and whereas we've moved on. But it's kind of interesting, because we are really intrigued with bands like Rival Sons. When we heard Pressure and Time, that song, we were like, holy smoke, this is how you record rock and roll. Who produced this? And it was Dave Cobb. So we called him up. Would you like to produce us? So the last 2 albums have been recorded, produced by Dave Cobb, who did Rival Sons, who always does Rival Sons. Dave Cobb always obviously produced other stuff like Chris Stapleton and Jason Isbell and Whiskey Myers and a lot of other stuff. He's won a couple of Grammys, but he likes working with us. We're very flattered that he wants to work with us. So he's done 2 albums with us, and we try to keep our ear to the ground. What's working today for us, you know.
Yeah, look, another band is a band from Finland who I think owe you guys a debt of gratitude for their sound. That's Battle Beast. Nora's their singer. She's a wonderful singer actually. But check them out if you have time. Oh, you might know them. Yeah, they're when I heard them, I thought
I know them a little bit, but now that you mention it, I might check it a bit more.
All right. Okay. Final question for you then. I mean, you've had a very successful career. It's been a long career, but what would you say has been your biggest challenge across your career?
Well, it's been a long career now, like you say. There was an interesting challenge starting up again in 2004. John Norman started detuning his guitars, writing in a different way. It sounded darker, and that was kind of a new beginning. And when we didn't know if we had that many fans, so there was so much interest. So we played Sweden Rock Festival, one of our first gigs, and it was completely packed, and it sort of opened the future for us, and we thought, oh wow, now we do this long term, we can sort of make a new journey out of this. That was a challenge to just before that we were like, we didn't know really, we were going to do it, but we didn't know with what kind of support. But it seemed like we had a lot of support. The last few years, record business have changed, so what we've done is we've emphasized on live performance and tried to make organic records, and it's not been we've always done exactly what we wanted to do, so it's not really, we don't have to adapt really.
You got your core group of fans, and people also are very familiar with the band's the material.
We got a core, so we could tour. We have a core, but we also for some reason have managed, like maybe some other bands haven't done, the original lineup, and we're still here, and we got a new, younger audience in some countries, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
When we play Sweden, it's kind of, wow, this is amazing. It's like a generation. So that's happening too. So there's a few things that's going on.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. If I can get away from the family, I'll definitely be in the audience.
Yeah.
When you play Brisbane
on Wednesday. I hope you will. It would be great.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
It'd be great to see you there. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks so much for making your music, and appreciate the chat.
All right. Thanks, mate. All right. Take care. Bye.
You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was my conversation with the frontman of the band Europe, called Joey Tempest. Thank you so much for listening.